Why do I do this to myself? Why do I do this to myself, oh baby? Yeah.
Hello fellow readers and readeresses. Last year, me and a friend of mine were doing a buddy reading book club and had gotten the prompt to read a book that features vampires. After a long and hard deliberation of about 3 minutes, we unanimously selected Vampire Academy by the American author Richelle Mead. This is a young adult paranormal fantasy and the first book in the Vampire Academy series. I picked up the book on the 4th of April and 3 days later, after reading more than 50% of the book, angrily DNF'd it. And this is gonna go in history as the first book I have ever DNF'd in my entire life. Now, 3 weeks ago when I was doing my TBR for June, I got the prompt to finish a DNF. Naturally, I was shocked and appalled, despite the fact that I was the one who created the damn thing and wrote the damn prompts, but that is irrelevant. So today, with a heavy heart, here I go, attempting to finish Vampire Academy. Just the first book, not the series. Before we start though, let me catch you up to speed as to where we are in the book so far. Oh, it will be probably prudent of me to let you know that there will be massive spoilers for book 1 from here on out. So, we met Rose and Lisa, who are on the run. Lisa is a Moroi vampire and Rose is a Damper guardian in training and Lisa's best friend. They escaped the vampire high school they were attending for some strange mysterious reasons and are hanging out in a motel in Portland, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while, so I might forget. Naturally, they get caught by sexy Damper guardian Debauchery and promptly return to the high school, where Lisa gets a talking to and Rose gets grounded. I should mention that in this world there are 2 types of vampires, Moroi, the good guys, and Strigoi, the bad guys. Good guys and bad guys are fighting, and Moroi aren't doing too well because they refuse to use their elemental magic offensively, which is frankly moronic in my opinion. Get it? Moronic? Moronic? What the? So the much physically stronger but devoid of magic Strigoi are whooping them royally. To try and even the odds, Moroi are employing Dampirs who are half Moroi, half human, and are acting as their guardians. For what? I have no idea. It seems a little bit lazy to me to refuse to lift up a finger to defend yourself and throw the fighting to another race that has no beef with the bad guys. But that's just me. It's also important to mention that the Moroi have a queen, which is elected? And their society is divided to royals and your regular plebs. Now, Lisa is the last of her royal bloodline after her parents and brother died during a car crash, I believe, though she does have an uncle, Victor, who has a daughter, Natalie, who also goes to the same high school and is a roommate with Lisa. Natalie is also considered a bit of an outsider. We eventually find out that while Rose and Lisa were on the run, Rose acted as Lisa's feeder, which is basically a human who allows a Moroi to drink their blood. Rose did this due to a lack of available humans, and I'm gonna open a parenthesis here and mention that it didn't become clear to me whether the vampire existence is widely known to humanity or whether is a select few who know about them. Anyway, back to the story, we find out that Rose and Lisa also have a one-way psychic connection where Rose can feel Lisa's emotions and sometimes even see through her eyes. And this was one of the things that set the stage for me to be really pissed off. But I'll talk about it in a bit. Now, there is some strange stuff going on around Lisa. She seems to have the ability to compel others, but not just your regular schmegular people. She can actually compel other Moroi too, which is damn near unheard of. She also seems to be able to heal injuries, which is even more rare. But the poor girl also have a bunch of issues. She is very sensitive and unstable emotionally. So, our chicks have returned to school, attending classes and whatnot, and Rose here is set to do her guardian training with sexy Debauchery, who is 7 years her senior. And I am mentioning it here because it's kind of shady. Naturally, Rose gets the hots for Debauchery, while her friend Mason, who is also a Damper in training and her own age, gets the hots for her. In the meantime, Lisa starts secretly hanging out with Christian, who is considered widely to be a loser weirdo because his parents turned Strigoi and got killed in front of him. Now, while these two are hanging out, Rose is secretly spying on them using the psychic connection and vehemently disapproves because he is a quote-unquote jerk, even though he hasn't done anything to anyone, but he is shunned by everybody else, so by her logic, they should do it too. What a great gal. Oh, I forgot to mention that Lisa used to date this guy Aaron, who's now dating this girl Mia, who now hates Lisa and Rose because Lisa used to date Aaron. And being the level-headed, upstanding, classy lady that she is, Rose decides that it's a great idea to start running her mouth and and engage in a rumor war with Mia. Charming. Forging ahead. Lisa, who shares room with Natalie, finds a small dead fox in her bed and freaks out. We start to get glimpses of the past where Lisa and Rose find a dead raven, which Lisa resurrects, and then one of their teachers, Mrs. Carp, shows up out of nowhere, urges them to keep this a secret, and asks Rose to prevent Lisa from ever doing this again. Flashing sideways, all throughout the book, Rose sneaks out at every opportunity to do stupid things, one of which is to make out with this popular Moroi guy Jesse, who turns out to be a total jerk, would you believe it, and who, on the behest of Mia, starts spreading the rumor that while they were away, Rose fed Lisa blood, which is apparently a big no-no in the community. Not only that, he starts spreading the lie that Rose slept with him and this other jerk Ralph and fed them blood as well. There is a specific word that the book utilizes to refer to damper women who do that, which I will not repeat here because it's supremely offensive, and to be honest, I'm a little surprised that the author decided to feature this word in a young adult book and on every other page too. But before all that happens, there is a party in the school which is attended by the queen, who throws a bunch of shade at Lisa. Naturally, this upsets her, and while she's sulking, Rose takes it upon herself to tell Christian that Lisa doesn't like him and she thinks he's a freak. This is all done in the most obnoxious way and naturally behind Lisa's back and without her permission. Even worse, it is not true. And this is where I left off, because at the time I couldn't possibly continue. Why? Because the book is written from the point of view of Rose. She is supposed to be the good guy, and she is absolutely, undeniably unbearable. Rose is the epitome of every character I have ever hated. She is rude, arrogant, judgmental, obnoxious, irresponsible, outright stupid, superficial, and a hypocrite. But worst of all, and maybe because of everything I just said, she failed at being the one thing that the book repeatedly beat us over the head with, and that is being a friend. She was so overbearing on Lisa to the point of it verging on abuse, and I know that the word is being thrown around very lightly these days, so please excuse my use of it. You cannot call yourself a friend when you're forcefully and secretly intruding on your friend's moments of bonding with somebody else just because you think they're lame. And then you go ahead and behind your friend's back lie to the person that you know she likes with the clear intention of ruining the relationship. You cannot be the one to choose who Lisa's gonna hang out with, completely disregarding her opinion. This is not your decision to make, and certainly not behind her back. You can advise her, but you cannot make those decisions for her. Because first of all, you have already admitted that you are jealous of her getting close to other people. And how exactly do you deem yourself good enough to make those decisions for your friend? Let me remind you, against her will, when you have proven yourself to be reckless and incapable of accurately judging people. You think you are good enough to choose who your friend gets close to when the ones you choose to get close to are beyond trash? My goodness. And the moment people point that out to you and you have to face the consequences of your actions, you turn on the self-pity and woe is me. And now, hot guy Dimitri is there to drone on platitudes about how you're a good person and a good guardian and how it's not your fault, despite not having any evidence to support these claims. Am I supposed to feel bad that somebody spread lies about her now when she spread lies about other people remorselessly? I could have if it was presented as a teachable moment. But the author never addressed the mistakes that Rose made, I guess because main character. Anyway, this is where I left off, and just recapping it made me angry all over again. So today, I will attempt to finish this book once and for all, and let's hope that there is going to be some redemption to be found here, because otherwise, this is going to suck supremely. Let's go. Okay, so I'm reading through this thing and I reached a point where Rose is training with hot Dimitri and he's continuously beating her, and she says, "If I wasn't doing anything wrong, I'd have rendered you unconscious by now." And he answers, "Unlikely. Your moves are all correct, but this is the first time you've really tried. I've done it for years." I shook my head and rolled my eyes at his older and wiser manner. Like, he couldn't have been nicer and he couldn't have been more clear and more encouraging about the situation. This is the proper way to explain to somebody when they're doing something correct, but they just don't have enough experience. And it's a fact, he's been doing it for years, and she's rolling her eyes at him. Like, what kind of mannerism is this? What is he supposed to say? This really, really pisses me off if you couldn't tell. So Lisa and Rose are talking, and Rose, as always, is bad-mouthing Christian. Like, do I need to give you the Christian's a psychotic loser talk again? The nerve! Ma'am, your behavior is psychotic and the people you choose to hang out with are losers. Do I need to remind you of Jessie? The absolute nerve on this chick. I just can't stand people who lack self-awareness to this extent. Oh my god. So she's talking to Debauchery right now. He's, consoling her and telling her how it's not her fault. And he's talking about his father and how he was Moroi and how he was treating his mom, who was a dampier, and all of that. And this insensitive woman, Rose, that is having a conversation with him, and this entire dialogue is like, I hesitated. This was Dimitri's mother we were talking about. I didn't know how far I could go. And she blurts blood things. And I'm like, how insensitive could you be? Why would you throw that word? I have no words for the way this author is writing dialogue. It's disgusting, really. I'm getting so worked up again. I can't believe I'm doing this to myself once more. Okay, so the conversation continues, and Debauchery just says he had to learn that being a royal in Moroi doesn't mean you can do anything you want to other people, even blood. And this is Rose's thoughts. I stared. I couldn't believe he just said that about his mother. You just said it 10 seconds ago. The same word, in way worse context. So Debauchery says to Rose, I know it's not true, he interrupted. His immediate certain answer surprised me, and I stupidly found myself questioning it. Yeah, but how do you... Because I know you, he replied firmly. I know your character. I know you're going to be a great guardian. What are you basing this off of, sir? First of all, you don't know her. You don't know anything about her character besides what she's shown you, and what she's shown you isn't great. And how do you know that she's going to be a great guardian? She's so irrational and acts like a child pretty much all of the time. I hate when authors do this. They tell you one thing but show you a completely different thing. I can't decide whether this is bad writing or just the author thinking we're all idiots. Okay, we're at chapter 14, and it starts the following way. I continued spying on Lisa over the next couple of days, feeling mildly guilty each time. She'd always hated it when I did it by accident, and now I did it on purpose. And this is the only time she actually considers whether what she's doing is a terrible thing. It never gets resolved, it never gets anywhere. We never get a conclusion that, yes, this is a bad thing that you're doing, intruding on your friend's personal space. And even though she admits that she knows her friends hates it when she does it accidentally, and now she's doing it on purpose, it doesn't matter. She's going to continue doing it because this is what she does. She does whatever she wants. Do you see the pattern here? What she does is not out of cluelessness. It is deliberate. She does what she wants, never taking into consideration what others want. So, it is a few hours later since last time I spoke to you. It rained, I took a shower, took some rest, took some cookies, and came down a little bit. Then I read some more, and I am pissed off again. We are at chapter God knows what, but I am past the 70% mark of the book. Matter of fact, maybe a little bit around 80%, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish the book today. One thing I'm gonna give this book is that it's very easy and very quick to read because there's nothing too complicated. Now, we reached a scene where Mason is trying to flirt with our girl Rose, and she's thinking to herself that he is somewhat attractive, but she's not into him because, quote, I couldn't be Mason's girlfriend because when I imagined someone holding me and whispering dirty things in my ear, he had a Russian accent. This book has such a sexual innuendo all the time. Unnecessarily, may I add. It's very vulgar in a lot of places. Like, there's a lot of nasty words being used, and a lot of the times the interactions between people have a lot of underlying sexual tension, but in a gross way. Like, it's not cute, it's not sweet, it's making me cringe most of the time. And then right after she thinks that to herself, we have the following. Mason continued watching me admiringly, oblivious to what was going on in my head, and seeing that adoration, I suddenly realized how I could use it to my advantage. feeling a little guilty, I shifted the conversation to a more flirty style and watched Mason's glow increase. Do you see the sinister tone of this? Like, imagine what kind of person looks at their friend, looking at them adoringly, and then thinking to herself, here's how I could use this to my advantage. I mean, I know there's a lot of girl boss encouragement these days to, use the people around you, but to me, that's a terrible way of communicating with people. You are purposefully betraying the trust of your friend, giving him the wrong signals, and tomorrow he's gonna start doubting his own judgment and is gonna learn not to trust women. And how am I supposed to root for a person that does this to a friend of hers without any remorse? We're not even gonna comment on what she did to other people that aren't her friends. So it's a little bit later, and I reached a point where Rose has finally realized that Christian might actually be good for Lisa, and she's going to talk to him, tell him the truth, and try to convince him to hang out with Lisa again. But instead of apologizing and explaining the situation, she just says that, hey, listen, I lied. I want you to hang out with Lisa again. And he's smirking at her, and he's like, you can't be serious. And she's like, would you stop it already? I want you to hang out with her again. And he says no. And she's like, look, I told you I lied. No remorse, no apology, no nothing. Just goes around and tries to tell people what to do. I want you to hang out with her again. It is not your choice who hangs out with whom. You can't just go and tell people what to do. It's such a terrible demeanor towards others. How is this a protagonist in a book ever? Okay, so we get to a situation where our girls are finally going shopping, which is a scene that I expected from the beginning of the book. It was just very clear to me that we're going to get the situation where they're going to go to a party, so they're going to go shopping, and our girl is going to outfit herself, to be very attractive, which obviously she's trying to do. And then a little bit before that, we had a scene where Hot Dimitri was having a conversation with her and telling her how he has seen that she understands and she can be very serious. They have this very serious conversation in the car, and she, looking in his eyes, could understand that they're the only two who understand how serious they're taking the situation, and blah 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 blah. And then they went back to school grounds, and she started skipping from bench to bench, and then one of her ankles fell through a rotted part of a bench, and that got her to get injured. Like, this is the plot device that we're using right now. After droning on and on about how serious she is and how serious she's taking things, she's acting like a child all the time. She's just using very grown-up language, but beyond that, she's a child. Oh, so now we have Lisa's uncle buying Rose jewelry as a gift for her doing so well on her first day as a guardian. She did nothing. She walked around the mall with her friend and did dress shopping. That's the only thing they did. How did she do great? Oh my God. Okay, so it is a little bit before the party, the party of all parties, where Lisa is now mad at Rose because Rose didn't tell her a bunch of things related to Mrs. Carp, which was actually kind of an interesting reveal, but that's irrelevant for what I'm going to say right now. So Lisa is mad at Rose, and Rose, in her desire to, portray an I don't care attitude, she was thinking of staying in, but Mason convinced her in a blink of an eye to actually get out. And he was like, I have a surprise for you when we get there. And she's like, is it in a bottle? If Lisa wanted to ignore me, I had no reason to keep myself sober. So is this the same very serious guardian who understands her duty that we read about like a few chapters ago? Again, we have this thing where the author tells us something and then shows us something completely different. Also, all of these kids are like underaged, and they're talking about drinking all the time. Like, it was also very likely that I was going to get head over heels drunk tonight. I don't want to sound like the morality police here, but it's just, come on, you're grown up writing books for young adults and you're writing about drinking all the time. It's very iffy, actually, considering that also the main love interest here is 7 years older than our 16, 17-year-old protagonist, the Debauchery. Okay, we got to the party. And our main character is narrating, obviously, the story. And she's like, across the room, cutting through a cluster of freshmen who looked way too young to be doing the kind of pelvic thrusts they were. This is just gross. What kind of 30-year-old woman writes this kind of stuff about 16-year-olds? Maybe even younger. And then a couple of paragraphs later, Jesse and Ralph didn't notice this at first, but when they did, an amusing array of expression played over their faces. First, they saw my body and the dress. Testosterone took over as pure male lust shone out of their faces. We're talking about pelvic thrusts and pure male lust and getting off and dirty talk and all of that. Gross. And here goes again our heroine a little bit later spreading rumors about Mia again, which granted Mia did a terrible thing as well. She's not great, but Mia is supposedly a villain in this story. And when our protagonist acts exactly like one of the villains in the story, how am I supposed to feel bad for her? Like, she doesn't feel bad about the bad things she does for more than 10 seconds at a time and then never goes back to think about it. It's just being rash and reckless and doing what you want without any regard for the consequences for others. And when bad things happen to others, she actually feels good about it. Like, listen to this. We earned a lot of mileage by telling them about the Mia scandal, and petty or not, seeing my name cleared and getting revenge on her felt amazingly good. So much for waiting until Monday. Whatever. I didn't care. I was actually having a good time. I fell into my old role, happy to see I hadn't grown too dusty in making funny and flirty remarks. This is our protagonist. Different day, same struggle. I'm still reading this. I didn't finish it the other night, and I actually had to take a day off from reading this just to get back my desire to live. I haven't reached much further than where I last left off, but the things between Lisa and Rose are better, and now Lisa is hanging out with Christian, and Rose is obviously spying on them through the psychic bond, because why wouldn't you do that to your friend? And here's what Rose is thinking. At least Lisa might realize Aaron was boring and that she wanted to be with Christian. Now, throughout this whole book, I haven't talked about Aaron much because there was not much to say about him, but he seemed like a perfectly nice guy whom Lisa used to torture Mia, basically went back with him to get back at her. Which, can you see the pattern of our protagonists using boys just to get back at other people or to get what they need? Being able to treat somebody like that when they haven't done anything to you and you claim to care for them is really disturbing to me. But also, the biggest indictment of Aaron's character, according to Rose, is that he's boring and he deserves to have his feelings crushed now. Willing to disregard people's feelings simply because you find them boring is a quality of character that I find perfectly disgusting. Okay, sexual scene between Dimitri and Rose? Gross. I finally have something nice to say. I really like the plot line with Natalie turning bad and Victor abducting Lisa to help him heal. I think that was very nicely done. Although I kind of suspected it because Lisa and Natalie share a room and there was the dead fox there. And Natalie always shows up in these situations or right after. So I kind of had an inkling for that. But I really like that she turns Strigoi and how the situation unfolded there. I think that was very nicely done. I kind of wish they didn't kill her off this quickly. I think she could have been a very interesting character for later. But she still did really, really well in this book. Love that. And see, that is why I'm so frustrated with this book, because it could have been great, because the plot is actually interesting to me, but I simply cannot distance myself enough from the main characters whom I dislike right now to be enjoying the reading experience of this. I did it. It took me 2 years and 2 separate attempts, but I finally finished, well, this is not the book, I finally finished Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead, and let me tell you, it wasn't worth it. I am really unhappy to say that my judgment was perfectly correct the first time, and it was not worth going back and going through this entire arduous experience only to finish a book I ultimately don't care for. And this is the double-edged sword of TBR games. They're fun to play, and sometimes they get you to read very, very interesting books that you never would have picked otherwise, but sometimes they bring you nothing but pain and misery. Regardless, it is done. I gave the book 2 stars. I did not enjoy it at all. And it goes without saying, but I will say it either way. My opinion of this book is not an indictment of your taste. If you liked it, that is great. It either gave you something or fulfilled a certain need or any other reason. You just enjoyed it. That is a perfectly valid thing. I didn't, and you saw all of my reasons why in this video. And I would like to say something here, not to justify my opinion, because I don't think I need to do that any more than I already have, but because I can already already see some of you saying, oh, you're too old to appreciate or understand this book. And while that is true, I would like to remind you that I wasn't always in my 30s. I have already been a teenager and I already have that perspective. And maybe you'll say, yeah, but it's been a long time since you've been a teenager. And while that is true, I would like to remind you that this book was published in 2007 when I was still a teenager. So I do understand and I do have that perspective. What I don't have anymore is a teenager's interest, because as we grow and move through life, we change our interests, we change the things that we care about. So if it was that I didn't care for the plot or I was bored by it, if that was my problem with the book, yes, I would have definitely taken that into consideration and modified my rating accordingly. But in this case, the plot was the one thing that kept me from giving this book an even lower rating, because it was interesting and it was engaging, or it would have been had it not been for these absolutely horrendous characters that this author has written. So that is that. It is done. I am happy it's over, and I will never read another book from this series, hopefully ever again. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you didn't bother you too much. And if you like this book, again, I am glad to hear that. You don't have to agree with me. You don't owe me an allegiance in this case. It's just that I had to go through this bad experience, and I thought, hey, I might as well film it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you'd like to see some of my other reading experiments, you can check out this playlist. Bye.